What's up, y'all? Today we are talking about The Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, episode 6. It's real hard to keep up with these like episode numbers and season numbers. It's just numbers everywhere. I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed the last episode too. So I was already really excited for this episode to come on. I didn't remember what was about to happen in this episode until like I sat and I thought about it, and all I could see is like that clip of Kandi cussing out Marlo. So I was like, ooh, great. But like other than that, I didn't know what to expect. But I think that this was a really good episode. We start out with like immediately when the episode started, they had the like montage of like Kandi and Marlo's relationship from like where it started on the show, and then they just gave us like the I don't know, the timeline and the years, and they were showing us different events, and essentially they were showing us the switch and the dynamics of the relationship with Kandi and Marlo, which I keep saying each and every week is what makes the show important. So I was super excited to see them highlight like, okay, this is where Kandi and Marlo started, and this is where they really went, and this is where they ended up today. I was excited to see that. That was literally like 3 minutes in, I already was like, period. I'm having a great time. I was live tweeting. Like, okay, great, cool. So we do that. And what I liked and also found cringy was the fact that they honestly did like a good portion of like unseen footage. And y'all know I'm always like, why do we even have unseen footage? Like if it's important enough to reference on the show, why is it unseen? So that irritates me. But at the same time, I think it provided for some tea because it was giving context to this whole issue that Marlo has with Kandi. She kept referencing, this time when she spoke to Kandi and told Kandi about her nephew passing, and Kandi allegedly was not sympathetic. So now we're finally, after 2 episodes and 13 arguments, we're seeing the scene where that occurred. So it was kind of cool because it was like, okay, a flashback to last season that we didn't get to see. So cool, I guess. I thought that was cool for some reason. I don't know about y'all, but whatever. But it was also irritating because it was like, why is it unseen in the first place? But okay, whatever. Essentially, what we get out of that is that, and I don't know, I hope this was their intention. I'm not sure because it kind of got mixy. The editing got very mixy, but like it seems like their initial intention was to show that Kandi did like give some sort of like compassion or like whatever to Marlo, which we already could have assumed already happened. Like I don't think we were ever wondering that, but now we get to see it. So okay, great. So I guess that was the intention. So we get to see it, and it's some foreshadowing into the chaos to come. And immediately I will note, like I went to check because I always go to check. The girls were trending that I noticed by like, it came on at 8 Eastern time by like 8:20-ish, 30-ish. So people were watching or at least tweeting about it. So it was trending. So that was good because it hasn't been like immediately as of late, but it was. I checked that and I participated. As I'm looking at my notes now, I don't know why this stuck out to me, but I guess it did. Marlo going out to lunch or whatever it was with her 2 managers. I think we've met them before. I don't know. The only reason that I really cared was that I've obviously made comments to say, like, I want to see more of like Marlo's like personal life and who are her friends and what does she do. So we got to see that. It seems like they were familiar with each other or whatever. So that was a good dynamic to see. But another note here is basically she's rehashing this whole issue that she made up with Kandi, and they're kind of buying into it. I'm not going to read into them too much because they're just taking it from Marlo's perspective. I don't know that they're as delusional as Marlo, but they're just listening to their friend and they're giving a, feeding into what she's saying. So they're being friends or whatever it is, what it is. We get to this scene with Sonya and her family. I'm finding Sonya's story to be like much more interesting this season. She did annoy me later on in the episode, but I will admit that I was interested in seeing this. It was fun to see her interact with her son. I think her sister's hilarious. I think her mom's hilarious, so I like to see them. We were in the kitchen that we're in all the time. We get to see that all the time, but it was a fun scene, so I will say that. And they're basically discussing the fact that Sonya's family is going to be moving out, contrary to the original plan for them to live there and I guess be the Kardashians or something. I don't know what type of, it just seems like she was doing that for work, but it was never confirmed. But, for them to just be this like family empire type of thing, but the family's leaving Ross wanted them to leave, so her sister's feeling some type of way about that. They kind of dive into that, which I appreciated because it is like personal story and it does seem real, but it's not substantial based on what this episode is about, so I'm just gonna keep on going. We get to the fact that Kenya is building a salon, which I think is great. I guess I had never assumed that she was gonna come out with a salon. She has a hair care, but I just didn't connect the two. I don't know if it was like necessary to connect the two or if anybody else did, but great. I think that's cool. It gets personal story. We got to see the space. Cool enough. It was fun. And the hard hat and the confessional, that was fun. So that was cute. Sheree, her son, well, really her family. Like when they first show her daughter, I was like, oh my gosh, like I always like seeing like her family, her and her kids, because you can tell she really loves her kids, and it gives like personal story to Sheree. It's not just like Sheree following up behind Marlo, which we get to see plenty of later, and even before that. Her son comes with his new child, and that was fun to see. I was over here crying with Sheree. I was crying before Sheree. I was crying before they even got to her confessional where she was crying, because I'm like, that's so sweet. Like we watched Cairo grow up on the TV, and now he's a whole dad, and he was enjoying being a dad, and I thought that was cute. It was weird. It's so weird what people look to criticize. Like there were people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, Sheree's overdoing it, and she's getting like worked up and excited over Cairo doing what he's supposed to be doing." And I'm like, I'm not even gonna get into that argument, but that's just the weirdest thing I've ever heard, and I'm just gonna allow y'all to fill in the blanks from there. I love seeing fathers with their kids. Obviously, a lot of fathers are not with their kids, so I don't know. Like, I just like that. It's not my story. We hear like one side of it a lot, so it's nice to see fathers with their kids. I don't know. That's touching. I enjoyed that. I thought it was fun. That was a nice moment to see Sheree again, not just like in the mix and on the wrong side of history, with her family and being authentically her. That was fun. If you can't tell, I'm just rushing through the episode to get to like the meat of the episode, but it was a good episode. But we got a lot that just wasn't the key part of the episode. But we're talking about it. We are. Then we get the scene with Drew and Ralph. I still don't know if they like each other or not in this moment, but I guess they're filming together. And I don't know, I even tweeted like Drew is growing on me so much. Like it just seemed like she was having a regular conversation with Ralph. Even Ralph was like, it was just a regular conversation. They was just chopping it up about what's been going on. And Drew was just like, she's basically getting into the meat of like Marlo is on one. She's doing too much. And Ralph agrees, and they kind of kiki over that. But I just liked the way that Drew had dissected what was going on with Marlo, and she had clocked that Marlo was having some like internal issues as it relates to Candy, but that, she's basically using her trauma and taking it out on her friends. So I'm like, great, Drew. Like, I like that analysis of what you're giving. And yeah, like it worked for me. I didn't really have too many more notes on that, but it worked for me. They did this like weird montage, like in the transitioning of scenes. They did this weird, I won't even say weird because they do it, but it's like those fast paced montages where they'll show little clips of what somebody's doing, like one housewife is doing, and they'll switch until they get to like the main scene that they want to do. So in those like 3 to 4 scenes or whatever they were, they showed Sheree out with one of her friends, like maybe having lunch or dinner, and it was a conversation where they brought up Martell, but I think that the friend was mostly talking about like dating in general, but Martell was just applicable. I only noted, like, I just wish that we would have seen more of that. Like, I feel like I'm asking for these housewives that typically come on here, and no shade, they kind of act like they don't have no business, like they're making up beef. So I would have to reference Sheree. You just don't really know what she be doing. So I'm like, I want to see her with friends. So I feel like that was a great opportunity, but we got 2 seconds of it. The 2 seconds were fun, but I wish that they had dug into it a little bit more. That's all. That was my note. Finally, we get to like the juice of the episode, and Candy's at home chilling with Todd. Todd's trying to work on the movie, and Candy's doing something else again. No shade, but that's what happened. Basically, this is the day of the event, and I don't remember who called who, but she's having a phone call with Kenya, and Kenya's already at one function. They're gonna meet up at the next function later. And basically that function that they're talking about is Courtney's function. Courtney's having like escape room thing. And at the end, they get sprayed with paint if they don't make it out on time. So, they kiki about the method that Courtney used to invite, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at that point, King is like, oh, girl, so she fills her in about the whole Marlo thing. And she's like, I went to the IV drip thing or whatever with Drew and Sheree. And Sheree was basically filling me in about what Marlo is upset about. So this is when she tells Candy about, basically Marlo's going around saying that, her nephew met this guy at your restaurant and, he was subsequently, there's a lot of gray area in the story. But yeah, so she's telling Candy that, and I guess I didn't realize before I was watching it. I'm like, okay, I guess Candy hasn't heard this before this point. So this is tea. Like, we've been hearing it since like episode 2, and Marlo's been telling everybody and like throwing a fit about it and bucking at Drew about it. Like, she's pissed about it, but she hasn't talked to Candy about it. So Candy has no idea. This is the first time she's finding out. That's interesting. Candy's immediately pissed, and she tells us,
oh, now she done pissed me off.
And at this point, I just feel like I knew it was going to be bad. Like, obviously, we had seen the preview, but I feel like sometimes they show these blow-ups in previews and they, like, hype them up to something that they're not really going to be. Like, I saw Candy being mad, but they kept playing that same clip of her being pissed. Like, I don't know, it just was overplayed. So I just thought maybe it'll be overhyped. Maybe that's the height of it, and maybe that's the peak of it that they showed us, and that just kind of is what it is. But no, like, in this moment, I realized that Candy was truly pissed, and you could tell she was just over it. Like, her energy was just like, and she was on one. So that excited the heck out of me, especially because it was the same day of the event. Like, it's before she went to the event, and my girl is pissed.
Lying ass bitch.
So again, like, I don't want to say it's only interesting if they're like beefing, but it was interesting to see Candy be lit up by that. It just was.
Lying ass bitch.
Well, they get to the event. Everybody, is hello, ha ha ha. It's a full cast event, which I love. I love getting all the girls together. Let's see what's gonna happen. Oh, I did also want to say, like, I know I read Courtney, but it's something okay about her. Like, it's something, there are issues as well. Like, there are definitely notes, but it's also something okay about her. So I did make a note that, like, I thought it was cool that she got her own event. I did. Like, I mean, she already is on the wrong side of history, so it's not necessarily like she's trying to facilitate a relationship with everybody in the group, which is what you would hope for a friend of the show having their first event. However, at least she had the event, and it was bringing all the girls together for the sake of filming. So I thought that was great. And then that's really all I have to say about that. I also made a note. I feel like it was just hilarious to see, like, that last episode, not the last episode, but that episode where they were at Candace's show with Drew performing, and Marlo had came in, and Mayetta and Candy just kind of gave like a. So it was funny to see this episode when Marlo came in and she had to say hey to Drew twice, and Drew was just giving like. At one point do you take a mental note and just realize that, like, you're bringing the bad energy? Like, at what point? And then even with Sheree and Sonya, and Courtney, but just who, like, blindly back her up all the time. Like, they always just be like, oh, Marlo is just so great. Like, everybody's doing Marlo wrong. Like, at what point do you take the note and be like, maybe Marlo might be the issue? But whatever, I digress. She says hey to Drew twice. Drew says hey 0 times, but they keep it moving. And, everybody's coming in, blah, blah, blah. Most noteworthy is when Candy comes in and she's immediately pissed. And whoever asked her, like, are you good? Like, is everything okay? And she said no. It's not. I like how she immediately sat down and they're like, well, let's get started. And she's like, Marlo, can I have a chat with you? Yeah. Like, I mean, there's really no reason to sit here and blah, blah, blah. And she was being real. She's like, I'm not going to be able to go forward with this event without having this conversation. Period. Like, let's go have a chat. You've talked to everybody here. Like, I'm confused. So what's the tea? I just heard earlier. She ate that. But she's already lit. Like, it kind of feels like she was at the house and just hung up with Kenya 20 minutes before she got here. Like, she's lit up. Like, her attitude is really bad. It's worse than what it was when she hung up the phone with Kenya.
Lying ass bitch.
So she done stewed on it and thought about it and marinated it. They stepped to the side. I thought it was interesting that Marlo brought Drew. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm putting it together, Marlo is under the impression that Kandi is upset based off of what Drew told her. Now I'm putting this together. Marlo thinks that Kandi is upset because, well, Drew told Kandi that Marlo had, like, turned up on her, which is true, but that's not even what Candy's upset about. So Marlo calls Drew over there, I think, to kind of, like, clean that all up as a one. Like, I think she was going to kind of justify and talk around what happened with the whole Drew thing, and that's why she addressed Drew, and then kind of, like, melee that into Kandi and soften it up. That's what I think was going to happen. T. However, Candy's like, I ain't even talking about all that. Like, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, and she brings up the true T. I think that Marlo was caught off guard at that point. So Marlo gets a little frustrated because Marlo is just not like a reading type of girl. She's not a quick girl. So she was in the wrong argument mentally. And then Drew's trying to chime in and she's like, well, I'm not even talking to you. Like, you're out of it. You're done. Which was rude. Because it's like, well, you called me over here, but that's because you were trying to, but it didn't give that. But Kandi was not trying to hear it. Like, at the end of the day, I know what the issue is, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. You don't have anything to tell me. And even when when Marlo was talking about it, I'm just like, at certain points, I'm like, I do wish Kandi would have let her get it out because I knew that she was going to lie and say something silly. So I wanted to hear it, at least, so that we can just hear the BS. But Kandi was not trying to hear it. Like, she didn't even hear, sometimes you hear a little bit of BS, so you chop it, you shut it down. Kandi didn't hear anything. She's just like, no. Like, I'm trying to figure out. But she really wasn't trying to figure out. She had already been figured out, and she was just trying to let Marlo know, like, girl, don't do that. Like, she kept saying, she's like, don't do that. At the end of the day, like, there's no discussion. Just don't do that. As it got heated, like, you could tell it was super heated because everybody kept trying to go over there and, like, shut it down. They were trying to, like, get around it and film. I think they had asked Sonya something. She's like, I can't even focus on this right now. Like, the girls are over there fighting at this public establishment. And I don't know at what point people started shifting and shaking. Like, I don't know who shook and who did what first. Like, but it just, everybody started shifting real fast. And, like, people were coming over to check. And Candy's like, don't grab me, don't touch me. It was just a lot.
With you. I have pictures with you.
It was just way more than I bargained for. Like, I felt like the preview didn't even do it justice. Like, I had no idea that Kandi was going to be lit up the way that she was. But rightfully so. And I feel like I said, I feel like Marlo was caught off guard. So Marlo got a little flustered because she couldn't use her words. So I feel like she got a little antsy too. When I watched it back, I'm like, oh, she was being a little antsy. Like, both of them were just doing a lot of this. It was a lot. And I am just eager to see where this lands. And I'm eager to know if y'all can hear this helicopter in my background. I'm eager to see what happens next because this didn't end well. And this feels like one of those arguments where, like, it's not like you're about to just, like, get over it. Like, it's feeling like it's a chop. Like, girl, I'm not fooling with you. I'm not having it. Like, we're over it. What did piss me off, though, was, like, there was some good, like, it was so much confusion emotionally. There were good parts mixed in with bad parts that all kind of mushed together. Because when that was happening, like, Kenya came over and she was trying to ride, and Mayetta came over and she was trying to ride and make sure they didn't fight. And then, like, even Marlo's crew came over and they were trying to ride. They were trying to break it up, which was great. And then, like, fast forward, and even when they had separated and went outside, Courtney, as a group or event coordinator or whatever, she went out and checked on Kandi. Good moments. But also, what I couldn't understand was, obviously both parties had separated, and so each homegirl went to each respective homegirl. So obviously Sonya and Sheree and Courtney were inside with Marlo. Like I said, Courtney did the host thing where she checked on both parties, so great, that's what you're supposed to do. But Sonya stood there fully for the full debrief. Like, you know, when something escalates and you gotta go separate with your homegirl, you gotta ask her, like, girl, what happened? And your homegirl has to give you her story. She sat there for that part. She got the story. And then she even chimed in at the end. You know, that other part where you chime in with your homegirl, like, yeah, girl, you right. You did. She did all of that as well. She did some kikiing. Like, she did all of that stuff. And then by some, I don't know, wave of the wind, she decides, let me go check on Candy. Like, girl, immediately when she said that, I'm like, Sonya, girl, please sit right there. Because if anybody was going to check on Candy, why is it you of all people? Because y'all went to Disneyland? Be quiet. She goes outside. I feel like literally when she stepped outside, we were already seeing the subtitles of Candy being like, I'm finna go. I feel like Candy saw her coming and she was like, oh, there's more. And I'm not dealing with this. Absolutely not. Especially not from Miss Sonya. So, no. Sonya didn't even get her moment. She's like, girl, I'm leaving. So, bye. But she still takes the opportunity, Sonya. She still takes the opportunity to jump in the conversation. And she's just like, well, yeah, like, you know, I'm not understanding why Candy got so aggressive. And, like, what was the point? Like, I definitely saw this whole debate where it was like, you know, Sheree made a point where she was like, well, I don't know, or Sonya made a point, both of them maybe said the same BS, where it's like, well, I don't know why the narrative is being spent like Marlo's the only one being aggressive. Listen, it's obvious that there is a divide in the group, but like the delusion is just like so crazy to me to like act like Marlo wasn't literally antagonizing Candy this whole time it was happening, and she was on BS. Like they were both going at each other equally. I just feel like they needed to shut up on that front. Like, okay, look, they both were in an argument. So it just feels like with Marlo and her camp, it's always a, well, she did it. Like, it's never like a Marlo, Sonya, and Sheree all do that so well. Like, when it comes time for them to kind of like acknowledge something or own something, it's always like, well, she did it. And it's like, y'all are grown women. And it's weird because it's mostly targeted at Candy. It's like, well, Candy does this and Candy does this. Like, what is this comparison that y'all are doing at this big age? It is so weird. And at that point, I'm just like, Sonya, like, I'm so tired of trying to work with her. Like you had no business coming outside anyway, and then you're trying to input your opinion. Even when Drew was calling, like they kikiing, like they went to their respective girlfriends, so and they're in kiki mode, and they're calling Marlo a trick. You think they're gonna censor what they're saying because you're around? And you're like, well, we're not gonna do that, but we are. Drew's like, but we are. Like we are doing that. So Sonya blew me. Marlo blows me constantly. Sheree blows me constantly. Was it entertaining to see Candy turned up? Yes. Do I understand why Candy doesn't want to be turned up? Yes. And even like Marlo's reference to Candy being a tourist, I lived for it because yes, I'm a tourist too. And it's like, girl, stop playing with me. Like, and Candy even said on her speak on it as if that's something she needed to say. But it's just like, I can go there. Like, y'all have seen me go there on the show. I don't know why y'all acting different. But it's just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to portray that on the show. So I purposely try not to get in that. So yes, I am intentionally holding back or being boring or whatever y'all want to say because I don't want to be on here fighting with Marlo about something that she made up for the sake of television. I don't want to do that. I don't see what the big deal is. It's gone really far. And Marlo acknowledged that, like, that was too much. Like, yeah, it was. So, like, I think she thought, I also think that she thought she was going to play around and Candy wasn't going to get pissed like this because they started last season with Candy. And Candy got annoyed, but she didn't get like this. I don't think that Marlo was prepared for Candy to get this upset. That's my opinion. So I don't think she's ready going forward. Like, even when we got the preview for next episode, whatever group event they had, again, they're getting into it. And also, great producing. Whoever's pulling that together, excellent. Because if the girls are beefing at one group event, I want a group event the next day. And then maybe we'll take a little bit of a break. And then we're going to have another group event. We're going to keep y'all around each other because you annoy each other that much. And you're going to fight. Now I'm changing everything I've said. Like, I have been preaching that the girls don't need drama and they don't need to fight to, like, make a good show. And I still stand by that. But I'm gonna use my second argument and say it's giving dynamics. It is. It's continuity. The editor started it. Like, they started the episode with the timeline. So now we're continuing. Now I see a story, and now I'm invested. And that's just how I feel. I'm a little bit more invested. I was invested before, but I'm a little bit more invested now. I was also, I was really annoyed. Two more things. So basically, with the whole Drew thing, I think that Drew is speaking in generalizations just because that's maybe the way that she speaks. So I think when she keeps saying, she said it 7 times this episode, like, I'm from Chicago, we don't use the word. I get the message she's trying to say, but that's not necessarily textbook level accurate. Like, there's no rule. Because I'm from Chicago, there's no rule that people don't say it. But what she's trying to relay is that obviously we know that that's a big issue in Chicago, and it's a like a news thing. Like, everybody in the world knows that, and that's a negative connotation that people have about Chicago. So it's just not something that we really talk about or like say the word. Or she said like glorify, which wasn't the right word, but just she's just saying like we don't want to put that word out there. Like, she should have more so related it to herself and said, I'm not comfortable saying it because I'm from Chicago and this is my experience. So, but I think that the message that she's trying to say is clear. I hate that they're playing with her in the edit. I hope it doesn't become a big thing and they try to clown her, because I think that's always an easy way to edit the show, is to clown Drew. But I think Drew has shown this season that she knows what she's talking about. Before, I'll give y'all that, like, Drew will be doing a lot, but I feel like this season she's not being as as she was before. And I'll give her that. She mentions Chicago a lot, but people from Chicago mention Chicago a lot. One thing we're going to do is let y'all know we are from Chicago. I try not to say it on the videos because I know I say it a lot. In regular conversation, it's just something that we do. We reference. Like, it's just referential. It's just because it gives context. And so I understand her. I'm Team Drew on that. Second thing, the whole lapdog argument thing, I thought it was hilarious to see Sonya trying to kiki in a confessional talking about Kenya, Mayetta, and Drew are Candy's lapdogs, when we've really never seen any evidence of that. This is so brand new. I wish that she had if she wanted to say that this season, she needed to plant some seeds last season, because this is so out of the blue, especially for someone like Sonya, who came on the show following up behind everybody in the group to see what stuck. And then when Kenya wasn't giving her the attention she wanted, similar to Marlo, she exploded. Like, she hated it. And Drew was reading her, so she didn't fit in over there. Candy did one event with her, but it just wasn't giving friendship. They went to Disney World, I guess, but that's because Sonya's the only one that responded to the group chat, because of course. So, I mean, that's not her clique. And she went with basically the others, because they didn't really even choose each other either. It kind of felt like they were just kind of left over there, like whoever was over here hating on Candy was going to be the group. It kind of gave like, okay, you guys, we're going to choose one group, like whoever you want to be in this group, be in the group, and whatever's left, you guys go over there. That's literally what it felt like last season. So Sonya kind of ended up over there with the haters. You're a lapdog because you're latching on to the argument that applies to one of your fellow haters at the end of the day, just because you don't fit in over there. That's essentially what she's doing. And Sheree's doing it as well, but Sheree's been doing that since last season, which is so weird for someone that's an OG. Like, it's kind of like she came on the show, Candy wasn't giving her the light that she needed, and so she's like, let me see who's hating on Candy, because I can't do it alone. And she's like, Marlo, great. Like, it really feels like she latched on to Marlo for that sole reason. So, come on now. Be for real. Like, do something else. All in all, I thought the episode was very good. I think the girls thought the episode was good. I think the Twitter thought the episode was good. But I want to know if the girls hated it. I'm open to other perspectives. But I would like to know. I enjoyed it. And I'm excited for next week, and I was excited last week. So I think we're doing good. We're on a roll. We will see what happens. And I'll see you guys next time.